All right, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We got another news feed video here for you. This one kicking off right off the bat. Pretty interesting. Why did car manufacturers switch to plastic oil pans? And this article's got a lot of plastic stuff in general in it. And I know for you guys, this is a huge pet peeve. I hear it in the comments constantly. You guys are very fed up with this whole plastic oil pan, this whole way that this is being done. You're definitely not happy. You have voiced that opinion and made it very clear that you are not all right with all this plastic stuff, from oil filter housings to the oil filter cartridge tops to oil pans to control arms to you name it. You guys are fed up with the plastic. Well, it is here to stay. Let's take a look at this here. It says right here, the plastic content in cars increased from 2012 to 2021 by 16%, according to a report. It says that means that almost 411 pounds of a modern vehicle's weight is in plastic. 411 pounds. But you got to also understand, imagine what that would be if that 411 pounds was actually made out of metal. How much more that would weigh to that. And the reason I say that is because a lot of people are concerned, a lot of the manufacturers do the plastic because of weight reductions in EPA and things like that. And lighter vehicles mean better gas mileage, and every little quarter of an MPG matters and all this stuff. And that's what they tell us anyway. You figure it out for whatever you want to. I think it's cost cuttings and some other things, but anyway, you cut it, 411 pounds of a modern vehicle's weight is plastic. Now, I'm assuming that includes the interior and all of that stuff. That's just not exterior stuff. So you got obviously a lot of weight in plastic. But it says, well, this makes up roughly 10% of the total weight of the car on average. It accounts for 50% of the total volume of the vehicle. Okay, again, interiors and everything included. But 50% of a vehicle's total volume today is made by plastic. It's pretty crazy. Says this stuff, though, is not made out of the same things that you're using for water bottles. Instead, these oil pans are often made of fiber-reinforced polyamide resin that weighs much less than the usual choice of die-cast aluminum. Again, the weight savings here. In the world of ever-tightening emission standards, automakers are using plastics to make vehicles lighter and more fuel efficient. It also is why the engine bay of a typical car is a colossal mess of plastic parts. A lot of people very upset about that, and understandably so. Think about every sensor housing, every wire connector, every holder, it's like, oh my gosh, plenums and everything. It's just plastic every place you can look at. And now we're seeing critical components such as thermostat housings, coolant 90s and 45-degree angle housings and things like that. And again, oil pans. It's pretty crazy. So still, though, the weight reduction is just a small portion of why plastic is used in our rides. It's much easier to integrate other car parts such as oil drain plug, sensors, attachment points, clips into the resin material used to make these pans. Moreover, plastic oil pans are resistant to stone and gravel impacts, and their highly flexible molding helps reduce engine noise, vibration, and harshness. Overall, switching to plastic oil pans is a win-win situation for the car maker and owners alike. Still, the swap has a few downsides worth mentioning. We'll get to those, but that is interesting when you think about that, especially the stone chips and the rock chips and things like that, being able to damage them. That's pretty interesting when you think about it. However, I still think, I don't think I've ever heard of a stone chip damaging a steel oil pan. But when we talk about a stone or sticks and stuff that could go through it, they can go through a thin oil pan. I think they're still going right through the plastic one. So I don't think there's really that much benefit off-road use kind of thing. But I find the rest of the stuff pretty interesting. An ability to incorporate as they do the molds to be able to put connectors and points on there and things like that they need for the sensors and attachment points. Pretty interesting. Here's the disadvantages. Sure, a lighter car makes its way around a track faster, talk about race cars, but a cast aluminum alloy dissipates heat better than plastic. Talk about oil pan, which means it offers better engine performance than the pans made from the polyamide or whatever this is, the plastic ones. In addition, molded plastic tends to insulate and hold more heat, and it may melt or warp when consistently exposed to heat soak, even if your radiator fan stays on. Okay, that's very true. We know that, and that's the biggest problem we have, is over time, these oil pans heat soak too much, too many heat cycles in them, and then they start to warp, and then they start to leak. They're not very expensive to replace or very hard to replace, but that is a concern that you have. Now, you take a humming or plumbing, like a radiator connection hose on the back of a Tacoma, for example, that they use plastic on those. They have for the whole last generation of them. And when that snaps and it gets brittle and breaks, it's tremendously expensive to replace. And that's Toyota that was doing that. On the last gen, the third gen Tacoma, like I said, it's got a huge problem there with that. When it goes, it's very costly to deal with, and it's made out of plastic. A ton of plastic connections on that Tacoma. This isn't something new. We've been dealing with this for a long time. It also helps to be conscious when screwing down the drain plug in a plastic oil pan so that you don't over-tighten it, could damage it. Love it or hate it, plastic will become more prevalent in advanced technologies with these resins. Whether it's good or bad, it's up for debate, but they are here to stay. But that's why you're seeing more of these. Now, the big article right here. The big one, if I can get it to click, there we go. So they did a poll at GM Authority not too long ago asking people that have the 6.2 V8 in a Chevy. This is the one that's under recall, 600,000 of them recalled. And they basically said, they're going to do a poll and wanted to see what you're going to do with the oil specs. So here's the results of that poll, and it's pretty interesting. So it says they did a poll, was published earlier this month. 50% of respondents said that they have already transitioned to OW40 oil instead of the OW20 that was in it, because GM said, we are going to inspect your engine. If it needs a new engine, we'll put it in there. If it doesn't, we're going to switch you to OW40, put a new oil filter in and a new filter cap that says OW40 on it, and then we're going to warranty for a lot longer for you. So that's what they're going to do. But the poll was, are you going to wait for that, or are you just going to run this heavier oil anyway? 50% of respondents say they have already transitioned to OW40 oil. That's pretty interesting. Now, this does void your warranty. It's pretty interesting when you see that, but it's 50% of people said, screw it, we're doing it. I'm going with OW40. I'm not risking my truck. We're going O40. 33% said they will stick with the original OW20 specification. Find that very interesting as well, too. Another 16% said they plan to make the switch after the powertrain warranty expires. Probably the smartest of the whole entire group right there. That's 16%. That's what I would personally do as well, too. But I understand all three sides of this. To 50% to say, nope, you know what, I'm not playing that. I'm not a guinea pig. No, if this is supposed to work for others, I'm doing it right now, and I'm jumping on that bandwagon. And then you got 33% to say, nope, I will not void my warranty. I will stick with what they say. And in that 33% is also this one, this 16%. Hang on. Excuse me. 16% that says we won't do it either. We're staying OW20 till the warranty is up. Then we will switch to OW40. So you are basically divided straight down the middle, 50-50. 50% said yes, we're going to change it. 50% said not until we're not going to, or until warranty is out. Interesting. And here it is, though. We got 600,000 vehicles built, but 21s through 24s that have this issue. Does say here, though, the result of the inspection performed by the dealer when they check your vehicle, some vehicles will receive a complete engine replacement, while others will transition from OW20 to OW40 as part of the fix. So what we were talking about, they give you the warranty info here, too. For affected units that receive new engine oil spec, techs will also install a revised oil filter and update the oil filter indication with an OW40 cap on there. Now, here's a question. You guys that are putting OW40 in and you're running it now, are you running the same filters? Or you're going to find out what filter they're putting on these when they do this correction, and are you going to run the correct filter for that OW40? Or are you just dumping OW40 into your same exact filter you got? Apparently that matters quite a bit, because GM has chose to give it a new oil filter with the OW40. So pretty interesting. GM is also extending the warranty coverage for these affected engines. So, but they say right here, GM stresses that the new oil spec should only be applied to recalled vehicles. Owners not included in the recall for this are encouraged to continue using the factory recommended OW20 oil. Deviating from the spec outside of the recall could void warranty coverage, as GM has not validated the OW40 oil for general use across all L87 engines. Take that for what it's worth. I'm curious what you did. It says, additionally, switching to higher viscosity oils also adds a small amount of increase. They covered here the L87 requires 8 quarts of oil with Mobile One truck and SUV OW20 running $52.77 for 8 quarts, and a Mobile One ESP X3 OW40 costing 81. So basically $30 more per oil change for that OW40 oil. So I'm curious if you got one of these, if you did it, or where you stand on it. But I thought it was pretty interesting to see what people are doing in the real world. So questions, comments, put them below. Thanks for watching.